The hall adjusted its lighting the moment I stepped inside, as if my indecision emitted a measurable wavelength. Transparent panels glided into place, projecting rows of floating numbers beside every alien woman standing there, calm and radiant, their posture trained by centuries of being evaluated. Beauty index, emotional stability curve, genetic harmony forecast. I tried not to stare, which was difficult because the numbers stared first. Somewhere overhead, a pleasant synthetic voice reminded everyone that this was a voluntary selection process, which was impressive, considering the armed attendants and biometric locks. I shifted my weight and felt the floor politely compensate, like it was worried I might trip and embarrass the species. They smiled the same way, practiced and mathematically reassuring. All except one. She stood half a step behind the others, long ears angled slightly back, as if she expected the room to insult her again and wanted advance warning. Her numbers flickered in a subdued red, like an apology. Lowest beauty rating in the chamber. Highest jealousy score by a margin that looked almost personal. She wasn't trying to hide it. Her expression said she was counting how long until this ended and whether flipping a table would be worth the paperwork. A small drone hovered near my shoulder and whispered statistical encouragement. 99.8% satisfaction predicted if I followed the recommendation. It pulsed gently, waiting for my compliance. I asked it if it ever got tired of being wrong. It pretended not to hear me. When I looked at her again, she noticed. Her ears twitched, sharp and reflexive, and she rolled her eyes so hard I worried about orbital mechanics. "If you're here to confirm the data," she said, voice dry and unfiltered, "yes, I am exactly as disappointing as advertised." A few attendants stiffened. Humor was not listed as one of her redeeming traits. I told her I hadn't decided anything yet. This seemed to annoy her more than outright rejection. She crossed her arms and leaned back, studying me like I was a malfunctioning appliance. "That's worse," she said. "Indecision implies hope. Hope leads to expectations. Expectations lead to jealousy. They already blame me for that." Around us, the system hummed, recalculating probabilities in real time. I could feel it nudging me, flashing ideal matches, offering chemical compatibility graphs like party tricks. None of it mentioned conversation. None of it accounted for the fact that she was the only one not trying to sell me a future. She was daring me to leave. I asked her name. She hesitated, then gave it like she expected it to be used against her later. The sound carried a slight edge, the kind earned from being compared too often. She asked mine back and immediately criticized its inefficiency. "Too many soft consonants," she said. "It sounds like you'd apologize to a door if it closed on you." I laughed before I could stop myself. The drone sputtered in alarm. Somewhere an algorithm failed quietly, and for the first time since entering the hall, the numbers didn't feel like they were in charge. The chamber reassigned us a shared waiting interval, which sounded neutral until it sealed the doors and informed us that conversational compatibility would now be evaluated. She stared at the ceiling like it had personally betrayed her. I asked if she wanted to sit. She said the furniture was calibrated for optimism and tended to squeak judgmentally. We stood instead, which apparently counted as noncompliance, because a thin line of light traced a circle around us and began measuring proximity with increasing concern. She told me the circle meant we were being observed for micro-expressions. I told her my micro-expressions had union rules. She snorted despite herself and then looked annoyed that she had. Her ears flicked forward, then back, as if they were arguing internally. The system projected a prompt suggesting a compliment would improve outcomes. She glanced at it and said, "If you compliment my bone symmetry, I will scream." I complimented her refusal to play along. The circle dimmed, confused. Time stretched the way it does in places designed by committees. We talked because silence seemed to make the machines nervous. She explained the jealousy score like a technical flaw she'd memorized to survive. Her people treated emotions like software bugs. Hers just happened to throw visible errors. I said humans called that honesty. She said humans had low standards. I agreed and told her we were very proud of it. A maintenance drone drifted in to adjust the lighting and apologized to me by name. It did not apologize to her. She noticed. I noticed her noticing. The jealousy metric spiked, then wavered, then settled lower than before, as if unsure what it was supposed to feel. She muttered that the system hated ambiguity more than jealousy. I said that made two of us. When the door finally opened, an attendant asked if we were ready to proceed. She answered for me. "He's malfunctioning," she said. "Please update your expectations." The attendant frowned at their tablet as if it had just insulted them. I said I was functioning perfectly and that my preferences were analog. The tablet froze. As we walked, screens flickered, probabilities softened, and somewhere deep in the facility something recalibrated with a sigh. She glanced at me sideways, long ears angled cautiously forward. "If this ruins my life," she said, "I will never forgive you." I smiled and told her that sounded like a promise. The final selection chamber was quieter than the first, which felt intentional, like the universe lowering its voice before admitting it was wrong. The projections hesitated before forming, numbers appearing with less confidence, their colors dulled by uncertainty. I stood beside her without being told to, and no one tried to separate us this time. The system announced that an anomaly had been detected in my decision pathway. I thanked it for noticing. Self-awareness was the first step toward recovery. She waited for the verdict with her arms crossed, long ears held perfectly still, the posture of someone bracing for disappointment she'd already rehearsed. When the primary interface asked me to confirm my choice, she muttered that this was the part where people usually laughed. I said I didn't feel like laughing today. That seemed to worry the machines more than anything else I'd done. I confirmed. The word echoed longer than necessary. Silence followed, thick and awkward, like everyone was waiting for a punchline that refused to arrive. Her jealousy index spiked out of habit, then collapsed entirely, as if it realized it had no job left. She stared at the display, then at me, then back again. "You understand," she said slowly, "that I am objectively the wrong option." I told her humans had a long and proud history of choosing wrong options and calling them traditions. The council attempted an intervention. Charts appeared, simulations rewound, alternate futures offered like discounts. In every optimal scenario I was happier without her. In every suboptimal one I was bored. I pointed that out. Someone whispered that boredom wasn't a measurable harm. She snorted and said that explained a lot about their civilization. They released us before the system could argue itself into a paradox. Outside, the air felt less curated. She walked a few steps ahead, then stopped, clearly unsure what came next. I realized I was too. That was new for me. Usually, uncertainty came with instructions. Now it just existed, unranked and unapologetic. She finally looked at me and said she didn't know how to be chosen without preparing for loss. I told her I didn't know how to choose without a checklist. We agreed we were both underqualified. She smiled just a little, and her ears relaxed, like they'd been waiting years for permission. Later, when the city lights adjusted themselves to our presence out of habit, I noticed they didn't change for her anymore. No compensations, no apologies, just light. She noticed too. She didn't say anything, but she walked closer,